All right, let's get to our guest here. Of course, Eliot Shorr-Parks, sponsored by Cozy Jewelers. Step up to the 50. That's color, cut, clarity, carat, and Cozy as we discuss a big week, including a fine but not a suspension for Jalen Carter. Eliot, how you doing?
What up? How you guys doing today?
What's going on, man?
Eliot, we're good. All right, let's start with the news from yesterday. Your thought on how the NFL disciplined Jalen Carter and what the Eagles' response hasn't been / maybe still will be. What do you think of the whole Carter situation?
Yeah, I think after the NFL talked a big game all offseason, it doesn't feel like they backed it up. Now, I'll start by saying, for the Eagles, this is obviously great news. He will play on Sunday, increases their chances of winning. For fans, this is obviously great news. They want to see Jalen Carter play. So I think I understand why people are happy about this. But for something where he spit on another player, and now it feels like the punishment is closer to a slap on the wrist than it is anything of substance, I will just say, objectively, I think it's a disappointing outcome for the league, and we'll see what the Eagles do. But if it does not feel like a strong message was sent here, and I think mostly everyone agrees a strong message was needed.
I agree with you on this. They did spend all offseason talking about it. Troy Vincent spent all offseason talking about it. They're flagging people left and right for flexing after a tackle, but you spit on another player, and it's like, all right, you don't get another game or anything beyond the game check. I thought it was light. Heal your reaction to what they did?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I feel like it should have been more, for me personally, I've been on this train for a while, that it should be a mechanism where he has to go, speak to somebody. Because you don't want this behavior to keep going. And I think it would speak volumes if he did decide on his own, or somebody tell him, hey, man, maybe you need to go talk to somebody. I think that would probably go well. I think that would probably go further, because if I'm hearing you correctly, Eliot, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, it kind of feels like because there's a pattern of behavior here that you don't feel like this punishment is enough.
Well, I would say even if you ignore the pattern of behavior, and I think your point about Jalen Carter and his pattern of behavior, and hopefully the Eagles, and I'm sure they are helping him and, making sure he's turning into a great player. And Nick Sirianni talked about that. The part of his job is to help his players turn into great men. And I think the Eagles have a track record of doing that. And I'm sure behind the scenes they are. But I just think on a simplistic level, whether it was Jalen Carter, Chris Jones, whoever, Myles Garrett, he spit on someone on national television right before the game, and now kind of on a technicality, he's not being suspended. They're saying, well, he didn't play last game. Well, yeah, but that's because he got thrown out. Lots of players get thrown out of games and then get suspended the next week. So I just think, again, if you remove the Eagles part of it, it's a very weak response by the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, Ellie, let's look forward. Sunday, we know Jalen Carter's going to be out there. Now, you put something out yesterday. I know you guys were talking about on the afternoon show that people are talking about. You believe Sunday is an acceptable loss for the Eagles, even though it's a game right now they are favored in. Why?
Because they are going into a situation that is extremely difficult. I'm not saying they're going into playing the Jacksonville Jaguars and it's an acceptable loss. I'm not saying they're playing the Los Angeles Rams at home and it's an acceptable loss. They're going into Kansas City against an 0-1 Chiefs team, a team that with Mahomes and Andy has lost back-to-back games, I think 4 times in 7 years. They've never lost 3 straight games if you go back to the Super Bowl. He's 6-1 in home openers. He's 6-1 in week 2. And so there is no shame in losing this game. Now, obviously, if parts of the team don't play well, that's noteworthy. If Adoree Jackson struggles again, that matters. If the passing game doesn't look good, that matters. But if they go to Kansas City and lose this game, a close game, right? By a touchdown or a field goal, but we all watch it and saw they were very competitive, but Mahomes was just Mahomes. There's no shame in that. That's an acceptable loss. So I am not going to change my view of this team based off of this game, and that's not the case most weeks in the NFL.
So I understand what you're saying, and most of it I do agree with. Here's what I would say, though, that it's a little bit different than maybe we thought before the season. They're 0-1 maybe because they're not that great, right? They're 0-1 because they lost. We could spin the 0-1 as, they're not going to go 0-2, but maybe they're not as good this year as they have been in years past. And the other thing is, their wide receivers are all banged up. I mean, they have neither of their top 2 wide receivers, and they're coming off the Brazil trip. And we had the Eagles last year off the Brazil trip that came home and were kind of sleepwalking through their next game. I'm not sure if it's travel or whatever. Eliot, I feel like things have broke the Eagles' way, including Carter playing. So they're favored. I mean, everything you said is real, but yet they're still favored.
They're favored by a point.
Yeah, but
that has gone. But so the point I'm making is
how often are teams favored in Kansas City, though? I mean, it speaks volumes.
Very rarely.
Yeah, right.
Very rarely. I agree. Well, I agree with you. The Eagles are a better team, but we see all the time in the NFL that the timing of the game, where it falls on the schedule, who needs it more, that can often matter more than the talent between the two rosters. The Eagles definitely have a more talented roster. No question about it. The Chiefs roster, frankly, not that talented. They have like 5 or 6 great players, and then there's a dramatic drop-off. So there's a reason the Eagles are favored, but it is only a point despite everything you're saying, and that's where my opinion of an acceptable loss comes in, is that we can say maybe the Chiefs won't be that good, and that it might end up being right, but no Eagles fan would accept after one game into the 2025 season us just be like, well, maybe the Eagles aren't that good. So I think the Chiefs still deserve the respect of the fact that they've been to 3 straight Super Bowls. They have an unbelievable win-loss record. So there's just no harm in it. It is an acceptable loss. I'm not going to change how I feel. If Eagles fans want to change how they feel, they can go for it. If they expect them to go 17-0, they can go for it. But the reality is there are games it's okay to lose, and this is one of those games.
All right, Eliot, let's unpack what we saw and kind of spin it forward with the offense on Thursday night. So I think you and I saw it pretty similarly with Jalen. I thought he played well. I thought Jalen Hurts individually played well. His legs were a weapon, converted a lot of third downs into first downs, scrambled for 2 touchdowns, didn't put the ball in harm's way, didn't take sacks, only 1. I liked the way he played. But, Eliot, we discussed it yesterday. The passing game, just as in totality, felt bogged down, right? They had the one throw to Dotson, and that's the only explosive they created in the passing game. And I saw you were posting a chart in terms of average time to throw, right? Jalen got a lot of time to throw on Thursday versus how far they threw the ball down the field, which was mostly short passes. What did you make of the offense, the pass game, Patullo's first game as coordinator?
So I thought the passing game was not good enough. And I do understand that if you're going against a defense that's allowing you to kind of dink and dunk it down the field and to take short completions, there's a positive to that. But I think if we just want to go to the eye test, it was not a great passing game from the Eagles offense. They had 30 yards with a few minutes to go in the second half. Jalen saved them. And I thought it was a very good Jalen game in that regard. Jalen made something out of nothing quite a bit in the first half. But the issue is he had to make something out of nothing. And when we talk about that nothing, right, why are guys not open? I do think we have to include Jalen in that. All offseason and all last season, I was clear. Jalen deserves credit for what happens pre-snap. He picks the plays a lot of times. He gets them into good situations. He audibles if he doesn't like what he sees. And we've seen the benefit of that. The dagger was a result of Jalen being involved in the play calling. So, yes, the passing game was not good enough, and Jalen saved them. But I think the disappointing part was that the Sirianni, Patullo, and Hurts trio did not produce a better passing attack.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. And it was kind of bizarre. I was listening to Patullo yesterday, Eliot. He said something to the effect that they didn't script the beginning of the game.
That was weird. Listening
to him yesterday, Eliot, and I know he is inexperienced. It came across as kind of inexperienced with the way he was talking about his first game as a coordinator. What did you make of that?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were playing the audio. No, I actually think it's okay what he said. They were going up against, it's week 1. It's an unknown defense. You don't know what you're going to expect. When you're playing a team in the second and third week, and obviously later in the year you have more information, then you can maybe say, okay, the first 2 weeks, here's what they've done. I think these plays will work against it. So I actually think coming out and not sticking to a script is a good thing because it shows a willingness to adjust to what's happening in game. Now, it didn't work, right? It didn't work. But I do think that given the circumstances, not having the beginning scripted, I thought was okay.
All right, Eliot, we appreciate you hopping on. As always, we will talk to you coming up.
One more thing, just to keep an eye out for fans this week. So obviously they're going to practice later today. I would keep an eye on Dallas Goedert this week. I think he came out of that last game with an injury. I think his status for Sunday is going to be a question these next few days. So we'll get more information as the week goes on, but just something to keep an eye out for fans. Well, especially after the passing offense wasn't explosive with him on that game on Thursday. All right, we'll watch for that as they go back to practice. Eliot, thank you. We'll talk soon. And, of course, pregame coming up on Sunday. Thank you, Eliot. Yep, talk to you guys later.
There he goes. Eliot Shorr-Parks.